My old sword, Sting. Here, take it. The blade glows blue when orcs are close. And it's times like that, my lad, when you have to be extra careful.
Hi there and welcome to Wise Moose Games, a channel about indie game development. In this video I'm going to show you how I've created the sword Sting from Lord of the Rings in Unreal Engine. If you may not know, or if you have skipped the intro scene, Sting is not a common sword because it glows as it gets close to orcs. And this is the mechanic that we are going to build in this video. Let's go! The first step was to create the Unreal project. I used Unreal Engine 5 version 5.0.3 for this video, but there should be no problem with later version. I also used the third-person template as a starting point for the project. The first thing that I needed was a level. I wanted something natural with a little bit of the Lord of the Ring vibe, so I went over all the asset pack that I have stacked up over the years in the Unreal Engine marketplace. After browsing for a few minutes, I finally found the realistic forest pack from Digital Trees that fitted perfectly here. Opening the level took quite a while, but it was worth it in the end. The next step was to find some orcs so that the sword can glow. For that, I went to the Unreal Marketplace and found some Infinity Blade enemies provided by Epic Games themselves. In this pack I've spotted a sort of troll that seems fine to me. It's not really an orc, but close enough. Going back to the project, I have created a new blueprint based on the character class and assigned the mesh of the troll to the skeletal mesh. I've also assigned an idle animation to the mesh so that our troll is moving a little bit. And here it is, just idling in the forest. Now onto the main part of the project, Sting. I first bought a mesh made by Kangaroos 3D from the Blender Market website. I then opened the mesh inside Blender and made it as a single mesh object by merging the different parts together. I've also assigned different material index for each separated part to then be able to apply different material inside Unreal Engine. And I've exported the asset as an XPX file that I've then imported inside Unreal Engine. To create the glowing shader, I have duplicated one of the metal material provided in the starter content, and I have added instructions to control the emissive output of the material depending on the value of a float parameter. The value goes from 0 to 1, with 0 meaning no glow and 1 meaning full glow. I have then created the blueprint for the sword. I have added a static mesh component and assigned to it some materials from the starter content, as well as the glowing metal created earlier. For the enemy detection, I needed to detect the enemies close to the sword and glow the sword depending on the distance of the closest enemy. For that, I have added a sphere collision with a large enough radius to detect enemies close to the sword. I have then created a function to modify the glowing parameter depending on the value of the distance from the closest enemy. We first get all the actors of the enemy class overlapping with the sphere, and then loop on them to get the distance of the closest one. We then map this distance to a value between 0 and 1, and we fit this value into the material emissive alpha parameter of the dynamic material instance. Finally, we set a timer at begin play to update the glow amount every 100 milliseconds. The final step was to create a new character class extending the third-person character class. We then spawn the Sting blueprint at begin play and attach it to the character mesh. For that, I had to create a new socket to the character mesh and used it at the attachment point for the sword. And finally, I had to replace the default character class used by the game mod by our newly created character class. And here is the final result. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, you can like, subscribe and share. It really helps me out. And that's it for me. See you another time. Bye.